All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to another NEARC community event. My name is Katie Grillo, and I am the GIS Web Technology Specialist at the City of Cambridge, Massachusetts. I am also a guest lecturer at University of Richmond and a member of the NEARC Board of Directors. So I am your immediate past president. So I've been on the board since 2018. And one of my big goals for the NEARC board was to, well, really during the pandemic, to try to bring together the community while we were all virtually separated. So NEARC hosts 2 annual conferences every year, and now we started doing these community events as a way to bring people together between those 2 conferences. So the community events are really designed to kind of deep dive on a specific topic. So sometimes we have Esri presentations. So today we're joined by Mark and Tom from Esri. And we also do some user presentations. And today we're trying something new. So after all of our conferences, we send out a post-conference survey. And one of the bits of feedback that we got from people was that they wanted to see more kind of like tag teaming presentations between the Esri professionals and members of the user community. So we heard your feedback and we're trying it out today. So we're going to have folks from Esri present a little bit about the Experience Builder application. And then we're going to dive into some lightning talks from a few of our users from the NEARC community. And then after that, Esri is going to take back over again. Mark and Tom will show us a little bit more kind of behind the scenes and details about Experience Builder. And then we're going to save the Q&A and discussion for the end. So I will be doing my best to monitor the chat. If you have any questions, comments, you can put those directly into the chat. And if we don't answer them immediately, then we might just save some of them for that Q&A portion at the end of today's presentation. But feel free to put anything in the chat as we're going along. This event is being recorded, and I will be sending a follow-up email to everyone that registered. And that follow-up email will include a link to the recording, which will be on our NEARC YouTube channel. And it'll also include some links and resources from all of our presenters today. So don't panic if you're trying to like capture URLs and that kind of thing. Don't worry, we will send you some resources after today's event. Before I dive into the content for today, I do just want to give a shout out to our upcoming conferences. So NEARC is the Northeast ARC Users Group, and we host 2 major conferences every year. We have a 1-day event in the spring, and that is coming up on May 16th. And we're still looking for people to submit abstracts. So if you're interested in presenting, there was actually an email that went out just this morning. I'll forward it to the listserv later on this afternoon. But we are still looking for presenters for the May 16th spring conference. And that's going to be at the University of Rhode Island in Kingston, Rhode Island. So hopefully we will see you there in person. And then I encourage you also to mark your calendars, save the date for our fall conference. So the fall conference is a 3-day event. This year, it's going to be hosted in New Haven, Connecticut. So a big switch from our event kind of in middle of nowhere mountains of New Hampshire last year. Now we're going back into more of like a city urban space. So should be fun. There's rumors of like a pizza crawl and other like fun things to get out and about around New Haven. And that is going to be on October 15th through the 18th. So please save those dates. All right, but today we're here for a community event. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to pass it over to you, Mark and Tom, so that you can give us this overview of Experience Builder, please.
Okay, thank you. Let's do the old screen share and hope it doesn't explode. So what are you looking at?
Perfect. Looks good. Perfect. I can see your presentation.
Excellent. Amazing. That happens correctly once every week, so that's good. I didn't screw it up this time. So hello, everyone. Mark Scott here, solution engineer from the Boston office at Esri. And here to talk about Experience Builder with Tom Schwartzman. So I get the boring part, which is to put you to sleep with some PowerPoints. Hopefully you've got a coffee and a soda ready. And but I do have a couple of things I want to cover about Introduction to Experience Builder, what it does, but also some things about Web App Builder and where we're going with retirement of certain components that you may or may not find interesting. So I'm going to get going on that, and then I will pass it to Tom for the rest. Also, like Katie said, we're going to have this presentation. I've pressed it into a PowerPoint and I've provided it, so you don't have to like be scrambling to copy down links or anything. So we're just gonna roll with that. Okay, so Experience Builder, what is it? So Experience Builder is our application building tool, very configurable. This is sort of like the next gen from Web App Builder. It's built on the JavaScript API version 4, so it's using a lot of more modern design tools and techniques. We're using some same components that we've done with, say, the new map viewer, the new dashboards, some of the instant apps. So this is a app development paradigm that we've adopted, and this is going to be the one model that we're using going forward. These app builder tools are awesome. They don't require any coding. They allow you to use drag and drop tools, as you'll see from Tom's demo, to put together an application quite rapidly. And then if you want to get more heavily into it, there is a developer toolkit that you can use to sort of develop your own custom stuff. It's optimized for mobile, which is great. So I think Tom's going to show that too. So you'll see how a mobile app, an app can be developed that automatically senses that it's now being viewed on a mobile device. So that's great. 2 and 3D combined into one application, so you don't have to worry about flipping back and forth. And it's also very extensible. We've got 2 different editions. We've got an online and enterprise edition, but also the developer part. So if you are a developer, you can download the toolkit and build your own custom widgets, kind of like you did with Web App Builder. But there is, like there is with many of our other tools, there's a parallel development path for online and enterprise. As far as licensing goes, it comes with your Essential Apps bundle. So you have to have a creator or GIS professional user type to create experiences. And the developer subscription, if you not part of an org, but you're using the developer edition. So that's all pretty straightforward. And our experience is very similar to like a web app builder web app. You've got your GUI builder, which you're going to see in Tom's demo. And then you start with a template, you drag some widgets into it, you pattern those with the data sources. You can optionally use some sort of a theme to get you started. And then if you want, you could extend it using like development tools to create your own widgets. The default templates that you're going to see are going to be sort of like your full screen templates or scrolling templates. This foldable template's a really popular one that's sort of very similar to like what you would see with Web App Builder. So that's kind of like one of my go-to ones. Tom's going to show some different ones, but it's just like a starting point. And starting you with location for some tools or location for the map. Or if you want, you could just start with a blank screen and just paint the whole thing yourself. There's lots of public templates that are available in ArcGIS Online. Some are specific to applications like Business Analyst. Others are just ones that the users have shared or that Esri folks have created and put up on. So you can go in and look at those and feel free to use those templates or build your own templates. So you may get to a certain point where you've like fleshed out an app and you're like, wow, this is gonna be a great starting point for some of the applications that I'm going to build with Experience Builder going forward. So I'm going to save that as a template and then start using it. So the widgets are little tools that sort of do all the work in an experience. So they can be map centric. So something that's going to operate on a map, like maybe a slider tool or a split tool, zooming, that sort of thing, or data centric, maybe a tool that we're specifically going to use to show data from a table or from a feature layer, and then display those values, say like an elevation profile that you see here on my screen. They can be pieces that modify and work with page elements. So you can have something on a page, like a tool on a page is specific to that page. and then all sorts of other ones. So the widgets are sort of like the building blocks that you're going to use to create the experience. Widget contents, those are going to be set up so that you can select the data that's going to be attached to it. You can tools like zooming in and out, the home tool, navigation, kind of like your basic things that you would set up for some sort of like a map centric view. But if it's data centric, then you probably wouldn't even have to worry about tools like zooming in and navigation and things like that. So it's it's all depends on what you're actually trying to do. The style of the widgets can all be tailored with Experience Builder. So decide where the widget's going to be positioned, how big it's going to be. Do you want that widget to like really stand out on the application, or would you like it to sort of just be in the background? Any sort of like other effects like borders and box shadows, just like give the the widget some sort of a style. And then animation. I don't do a lot with animation on widgets. I think it's kind of distracting, but some people like to do that, so it's in there. So you can get pretty crazy with these. Here's some examples of some like widgets flying around. Like if you've got pictures and stuff that you want to make part of your presentation. Sometimes that can be pretty cool, or like in like a 3D view, and then like the widget sort of like fading in and out or like flipping back and forth. Some of these are pretty crazy. It's like a little more creative for me. As an engineer, uncreative. I'm all about feature function. So widget actions, widgets can talk to each other. This is really cool. I really like this. The widgets can pass data back and forth between them. An action on one widget can trigger another action on another one. Then a message action can automatically be applied. So as we're running the app, these messages can be like pushed back and forth between widgets. So you can have things that are like changing on a map based on some trigger in another part of the application. So this is where it really starts to get fun. So you're developing all those actions together. So the messages are comprised of like a trigger, which is going to broadcast a message. Then the target listens to the message, says, "Hey, okay, the map extent just changed. What am I going to do? Oh, the map extent changed. What I want to do is now filter the chart and the table. So the chart and table are going to reflect only the features that are in the current map extent. Or maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want a chart to show the current map, but I want the table to remain focused on all of the records. It's totally up to you how you do that, but that's how that's done. You decide how the widgets are laid out. So I can put them in rows or columns or fixed panels. There's all sorts of different ways that I can decide how I want the widgets to appear in the screen. Configuring the data source is something that you do at the app framework level. So you show the connections between the different layers that we've got, fields in the layers, and then connect those up to the widgets. So I might have like this, food and drink in a web map. Tom's going to show you something similar to that. So place seat in San Diego. I've got these widgets in here, and then it's going to connect up to another widget that's going to pull the restaurant name out, and then maybe I'll take that and I'll put it in a text box. So you can do things like that. The data source views can be set up so you can like see what those look like. You can have just like some boring default view, which is fine, a table of data, or you could construct like your own data view using like some really cool effects. Use HTML, go in here and really like populate these the data into a screen or into like a text box. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. It's very powerful. The output data source, that's generated by the widget at runtime. It's going to decide where that's all going to go. Is it going to go into a chart? Is it going to go into a query? Some sort of like other thing that I want to do. And that again is totally configurable by the user. So you can see like there's a lot of different things you can do here. The content can be very dynamic. This can get really fun. We did a hands-on exercise at NEARC in the fall, which was great. We ran through one of the Learn lessons, and there was a big chunk of that where we were dynamically configuring a text box to pull information from the data source. And then every time we clicked on a different object, in this case, they're polygons showing economic development, to show different pieces of that information. So that can apply to images, text, buttons, lists, cards, just about anything you want to connect up to the data and then dynamically show that. The Expressions can be dynamically created. Get to know how to build these expressions in the expression builder. It doesn't really take that long to figure that out, to learn that. It's very straightforward. And then we have all sorts of other things that that'll enable you to like say, okay, it's a number value. It's a currency, so I only want 2 decimal places instead of 4. Now maybe I'll show the thousand separator. So all these things can be configured so that like a numerical piece of information is going to come out the way I want it to look. The link buttons, so then I can set that up to say, okay, that this button is going to be linked, so it's going to automatically go. It's going to grab this title. It's going to push that out. Then it's going to also go to a specific web address. So all of these, information in this button can all be configured dynamically. And I mentioned the text before. This can get kind of fun. Actually, you can build some, really interesting pop-ups to do kind of similar like you did with Web App Builder. It's just a more, like I said, before, is a more modern interface on how to do this, and it's actually quite powerful. You control over all the obvious things like the text. How do you want to format that, and then what do you want it to look like in the information box? Utility services you can connect to, so that can get really interesting. We started doing printing, so we've improved the printing capabilities from the initial versions of Experience Builder. If you're connecting like to your enterprise setup where you've got a print service set up with like some standard layouts, you can connect to those utility services, and then that'll allow you to leverage that, or we can use some of the standard printing utilities. I mentioned the themes, and the themes are just sort of a way to like define a set of colors, fonts, font styles, and such, so that all of my apps have like a similar look and feel. And maybe that's going to reflect our organization. So like my county is going to have a specific look to all the apps we build, or maybe each department is going to have like certain colors. So Parks and Rec is going to have like this green motif, and Public Works or Water is going to have this blue motif. So I can do that with themes. Other ways to break up and organize the content. This can get really, I'm going to want to say complex, but built in, because you can have like pages and windows of pages and such. But so a page is a way for us to organize the data. So we have a header, a footer, and then like an open button. And so each page is separate and has different pieces of information in it. But then we can also set it up in windows. So you can have like a window of data. So it's not exactly like a page. So a pop-up is a great example of that. Splash screen that's going to, as soon as we fire up our application, splash screen comes up, and it's got some nice graphics. It explains what the app does and who created it, and then we dismiss the splash screen and get on with actually using the app. The screens can be set up into groups, so I can have like a more engaging experience. So this is kind of cool. It almost looks like a story map. So I can go in and group the screens together. So this is kind of a neat tool. I haven't messed around with this particular piece that much yet, but I'm looking forward to doing so. Mobile optimization is really neat. So we automatically sense the screen sizes. So if I'm on a mobile device like a phone or a tablet or my laptop or desktop, it's going to automatically scale that, but you have control over it. So you could go in and manually tweak some of that. I mean, Tom and I were looking at this morning, like the tablet, sometimes the tablet being like the middle one is like, it doesn't always come out exactly like you might want it to. So you can go in and mess around with that. As you're building the app, you can have widgets like in this thing called the pending list. So this is kind of neat. I like this. So like I'm working on a widget. I think this is going to be something I'm going to use, but I'm going to leave it in the pending side for now, so it won't show up in the active application. Okay, so it's just a way for me to like sort of set this up and take a look at it and figure out what it's going to do before I actually make it active. Then I take it out of the pending list and I put it actually in the application. There's great integration with other apps, so especially like Survey123. I think Tom is going to show this. You can pull a survey widget in and have the survey embedded into the experience. So now we're having like an experience that has a story map in it, an experience the desktop app in it, an experience the dashboard. So pulling all this stuff together into the experience, so it can get pretty in depth here on all the different things you can do. But pulling the survey in, I think that's awesome. It's just really cool. And then you bolt the survey onto the experience. I'm pretty sure Tom is going to show that. I wanted to spend a little bit of time on the roadmap. So, where are we going with Experience Builder? So there were a whole bunch of new widgets added this year. So in 2022, added in things like an improved print widget, the utility network trace and business analyst infographic. Those came out of beta, so those were in beta last year. Now they're a part of the Experience Builder proper. So I know like a lot of our utility customers were really looking forward to that utility tracing piece in there. There's a whole toolbox now for 3D that's pretty neat that you can play around with. So those are all new for 2022. New in this year, so this February, the slicing tool where we can like slice up and down through a building. So like getting more and more into like building management with ArcGIS Indoors and some of our GeoBIM tools. So be able to like slide that slider up and down through the vertical space in a building, be able to see stuff in there, and also being able to add all your own data in. So I'm like, hey, I want to go out and grab a feature layer that I know we have on our ArcGIS Online site for some sort of layer that I'd like to put into the experience that I'm building. I want the user to be able to do that on the fly. So that's extremely useful. Integration with dashboards continues to be better. So we can like take the dashboards and connect them together, even with like a splash screen or send URL parameters from my Experience Builder experience into a dashboard. So I'm pushing that out as a URL parameter to the dashboard. So that's also improved. The roadmap, we're already in Q1, so you can see I've already talked about some of that stuff, but these are the things we're working on. Building a swipe widget, the Near Me widget, which is really popular functionality in Web App Builder, that's going to be pulled in, to pull that stuff in. Related table editing, big one, especially like in utilities. They're going out and doing field inspections. We got an inspection table, so many inspections related to the feature layer, say for hydrants or something like that. So that's going to be in there for Q2, and in Q4, we're looking at doing a lot with geoprocessing and analysis. So you're going to see a lot more stuff there. When I say, actually, I'll do this first. So that's the Learn lesson we did at NEARC in the fall. So I just wanted to provide a link to that. You'll get this PDF, but you can find this on the Learn site. In fact, I've provided a whole bunch of links in here on things about the developer edition, the Learn lessons for Experience Builder, a whole bunch of YouTube playlists, which are great. I mean, man, there's so much stuff on YouTube now on how to learn how to do just about anything from the ArcGIS stack, and Experience Builder is, no exception. There's a ton of great YouTube videos out there on building things with Experience Builder. And I also want to plug the community and the blog. So the blog is like updated daily by Esri folks, and the community is updated daily by Esri folks and users. So there's links to those as well. My last section is on transitioning out of Web App Builder into Experience Builder. So our goal is that by the end of the year, we're going to have significant parity. You can put that in air quotes if you want. We're getting there. It's going to be close. So it's kind of like the Arc Pro versus ArcMap. When are they going to be exact? It's like it's kind of there now. We're getting there. We're getting really close now with Experience Builder and Web App Builder. So by the end of the year, we should have significant parity on what the apps can do. There is a retirement plan. I've provided a link to this. It starts with retiring the JavaScript 3x API. So that's the framework under which Web App Builder was created, under which the old Map Viewer was created. So that's going to be retired. All right, that's going to be retired in 2024, along with the legacy 3x version of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript. So that's all going away. Web App Builder and Enterprise will be deprecated for now. There's going to be a final release. I've outlined it here. So they've got a plan for that. And Web App Builder and ArcGIS Online end of 2025. So we're giving you, plenty of, notice of when this is all starts going to go away. I provided a link here to the blog. So this is the retirement roadmap. This came out fairly recently for Web App Builder. So this has got a lot of great information in here about, when is Web App Builder going to go away? What do I have to think about? When are we going to hit things like, applications? Will my apps work? Okay, so sure, in your developer application, that's going to work, but no more bug fixes or enhancements. It's going to be sort of like held in place. And that's sort of typical. It's kind of like where ArcMap is right now. It's sort of like held in stasis, still available, still there for everybody to use, but it's sort of like fixed in place. Same thing with enterprise. I'm not focusing a lot on the differences between enterprise experience builder and ArcGIS Online, but it'll be part of the enterprise lifecycle. And then as far as online goes, any apps that you build with the web app builder, they'll continue to work. It's not a problem. Everything will still work. It's just that, if there's any updates, say to Google Chrome, that might affect a web app builder app working, that has the possibility to cause problems in the future. So, would migrating your apps is, obviously kind of like what we'd like you to do. And it's fairly straightforward. I mean, there's a learning process on how to do this. Some of the widgets won't be migrated. I've got one last slide that's going to show some of this, the different widgets that aren't coming over. So I've got the functionality matrix in here, but think about migrating your apps from Web App Builder to Experience Builder, and that will sort of like make your life easier. You can like do it on the side. You keep your Web App Builder app up for now, and go through the process of migrating it. So if you're a developer, you'll still be able to download the existing versions of the Web App Builder. That's fine. Eventually that's going to end. It will be retired, but for now you can still do that. So as far as functionality goes, this is an eye chart, and there won't be a quiz later, but this, you'll get this. You can see all this. But as you can see, there's a bunch of apps in here, widgets in here, sorry, that are in Experience Builder now. Some that are planned, they're being built as we speak, and then some that they're not going to come over. And the reason for that is most of that functionality would just be built into core or other widgets in Experience Builder. So some of these will not have a direct translation over into Experience Builder. So you can sort of review that later on your own. Then I outline some specific widgets in here that will be addressed by like another product or another app or another capability. So some of these will be deprecated as we go along. But by the time we're done, there will be no functionality lost, because all the things in deprecated and taken out widgets, there'll either be a new widget that does the same thing, or it'll just be sort of built into the core part of Experience Builder. So I wanted to put that slide in there just so you can see that. There's this really good video I provided a link for. So this is the migration video that we've got that we can share on things that you might want to think about in the process of recreating a web app builder app using Experience Builder. So I sat through this video. This is pretty solid. So I think this is a good resource that you might want to think about. And then I've also been sort of following things that users have been posting in the user community. So if you're not part of Esri community, go out and like join that, get onto that. And this is where users are posting like sort of things that they've done, and like, hey, I've had some problems with this widget in Experience Builder. I think Esri's probably hasn't got all the kinks worked out, but this is what I did to get a workaround. And so there's some really really cool and interesting feedback in there from the user community. So I really like that. I wanted to make sure to plug that. Okay, deep breath. So that was a lot. So sorry I went so fast, but wanted to make sure to get that in. There's a whole bunch of other slides that I hid for the presentation, but I included in the PDF. So when you download the PDF, you'll be able to see there's some other slides in there, and all of the links are hot. So you can like go right out to those pages. I was going to show some of the pages, but I don't really have time to do that. I don't want to cut into Tom's time. So I am now going to pass it to.
Well, and actually, I think this is the part where, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes,
but
no,
we're gonna.
yes, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's
No,
not
that's all right.
demonstration time with Tom. It's time for our users to show
Yes,
some
we're
of the
gonna
great
have
work
our-
that they've done. So
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for that overview, and thank you, Tom, for helping out with the chat. There were a bunch of questions that came in, and Tom was doing his best to reply to those. If your question didn't get a reply in the chat already, then we will have some time at the end to go over some of those as well. But yes, now we want to pass it over to our users. So now that we know a little bit more about Experience Builder and what it is and kind of what some of the widgets are, that sort of thing, we want to see some examples of what people have done with it. And then after that, Tom will go behind the scenes and show us some creation tips and tricks. So with that, I'm going to start by passing it over to Rich, please, so that you can show what you've done with Experience Builder. Rich?
Hi, I'm Rich McLean. I'm a managing forester with Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, Division of Water Supply Protection. I work at the Quabbin Reservoir with 5 other foresters where we manage roughly 100,000 acres. And I'm going to be talking to you about an Experience Builder site that I use to better communicate our management with the public. Part of what we do to communicate our management is something that we call a web posting, which is just a summary of any individual harvest. We use harvest to accomplish our goals for the forest's age and species diversity. And in the past, the way that the public interacted with those postings was just a long list of permits, numbers, and things that no one should really have any way of understanding what they're looking for. It wasn't ideal, and as soon as our amazing GIS staff started to migrate us into ArcGIS Online, I realized that we could put together something that was much more user-friendly in the form of a spatial index, so people could use where they are or landmarks that they know to find the harvest that they were interested in. I originally built something in Story Builder and was pretty happy with it, but there were some things that I would have liked to have seen different. And Experience Builder really allowed that to happen. So I, in December, set this up as part of kind of a learning experience for myself, and was really happy with the results. I took advantage of screens and windows to create the splash screen that provides introductory experience, and then it's very map focused so that people are able to find what they're looking for based on where they're familiar with. I really appreciated having the search function up here so that if somebody happens to know a harvest number that they're looking for, it very quickly comes up with it. Or if they're looking for a particular date, I can use that to draw them directly to that spot. I was able to build all of this and minimize additional work for our managing foresters by incorporating the harvest layer, the feature layer that we were already using for tracking our harvesting. I added a single additional feature and then was able to create views that filter that feature based off of attributes that were already present in the data. So this public facing view of the data, it's all a single layer that has really helped consolidate all of our data to make it much easier to use. Additionally, I was able to take advantage of some of the pop-up and button capabilities to provide easy access to further contact for people. And I have taken advantage of the adaptive nature of it to start adding QR codes to some of our signage in the field so that people are able to use their smartphones to grab that QR code and get directly towards some of these summary links. That wraps it up for me.
Yeah, perfect timing. Thank you, Rich. All right, next up we have Michaela, please.
Hi guys. My name is Michaela Miner. I'm a GIS analyst for the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and we do regional planning efforts for 15 communities on the North Shore of Massachusetts. So today I'm going to show you an application that we built as a function of a talk that we saw, well, partially, I guess, as a function of a talk that we saw at the 2022 Esri UC, because guess who's in charge of modernizing web apps? This girl. So I'm actually going to show you a little bit of a demonstration about a lot of the ways that we put the demonstration that you guys just saw into use. So with that, let's get started. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay? Perfect.
Yep,
All right.
good. Yeah.
Nice. So as I had mentioned, this is our Regional Energy Planning Assistance Viewer. It is a deliverable for our Regional Energy Planning Assistance Grant. It's a grant that we've procured, I think, through the end of this fiscal year. So this project is not quite finished yet. We still have to show it to our stakeholders and get some of their final feedback, but this is essentially our stopping point for now. But as a function of that talk back in 2022, like I had mentioned, we essentially had been building lots of web app builder apps for a lot of different asset management uses, water systems, sewer systems, stormwater management, stuff like that. I'll actually give you a quick example of what some of them looked like. You see here, this is kind of an older school web app builder app, right? It looks nice, but my new app looks a lot better, doesn't it? So our objective here was, as a function of that talk, we realized that pretty quickly we were going to have to start migrating all of our applications. And to be honest with you, it was just something that made a lot more sense with the direction that our communities were going in. So just a couple things to bring to your attention. It's really nothing more than a simple viewer that has some really powerful information built into it and leverages Arcade to display certain things a little bit more conveniently for users. I think that that's one of the main things that we've taken advantage of as we migrated into Map Viewer and Experience Builder, is all the ways that you can empower your users to get at information in a more succinct manner. So if I start by clicking on some of these features, you'll see we've got our initial pop-up for our EV charging station analysis. There are some context clues down here that would give you a little bit more information about what the analysis actually was. But you'll see we've got some colors here. And this is actually dynamically drawing from the different colors that you would find on the map. So generally speaking, if one of the categorizations that we had broken the analysis out into fell into a certain bucket, you could really succinctly see like which ones were scoring higher versus lower. And the colors actually correspond with the colors that are on the map. I'll give you just a little bit of an insight into what that looks like with my little chart that I made here. So if you look at the pop-up right here that says EV charging station analysis, this is an example of what we had just looked at. This recreational color code down here is actually an example of the bit of Arcade that I used. So what this does is it actually says, hey, go grab this analysis score. If it falls in between this threshold, it's low, this threshold, it's medium, this threshold, it's high. These are the colors that are going to correspond with those. And then what you do is you build it into your pop-up, and then all of a sudden you get those dynamic bits of colors that are coming in that really uniquely tie your map themes back to your pop-ups and deliver information in a cool, concise way. Another facet that I wanted to bring your guys' attention to is that instead of doing a lot of the analysis on the back end, what we had done was we actually used Arcade to build analysis into the pop-ups for our users. So if you click on some of the EV charging stations themselves, you'll actually see that there are different pieces of information pulling through. Normally, this might be coming from your attribute table, right? Not in this case. In this case, almost every single one of these pieces of information is dynamically pulling via Arcade through layers through the rest of the layers in the map. So you'll see a couple different examples of that here, and then I can come back to my little chart and I can show you exactly what we were just looking at. So this is the EV charging station pop-up, and you'll see that I've got 7 or 8 different expressions here that actually pull that information. And I pulled out the points of interest one just to give you guys a bit of an example. So this is actually intersecting my EV charging stations layer with a buffer that's about 2 miles wide. And it says, if there are any of these certain types of points of interest in this buffer, count them and deliver them as an item in my pop-up. That way you don't, I mean, you could get that information visually by looking at the map, but that's a lot easier, isn't it? So a lot of this stuff was available to us in Web App Builder, but what I think is really powerful is the way that it gets all succinctly delivered in a much more comprehensive package with the Experience Builder template. You have the ability to add in these different context links. So this, for example, is a direct link right to our regional planning initiative. Here's a direct link to that methodology that I had mentioned, as well as where some of our data sources came from. So while this is just a simple viewer, it's a lot more powerful than that. And we historically would have delivered this as a report. I think that this, as a long-standing, leavable deliverable, acts as a much more robust thing to leave with our communities to help guide future regional planning efforts, particularly in the energy sector for this project, but across any sector. So, and I think that's about it, guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Wonderful. All right, Mike and Dan, no pressure. We had 2 perfect 5-minute presentations.
All right,
So,
we'll do our best.
Yeah, so this is our last user demo, and then we'll get back to the folks at Esri. So over to you, Mike and Dan, please.
All right, we won't waste time. I'm Dan Wheeler, along with Mike Racer. We're software engineers at VHB, and this is the Connecticut Asset Tracking and Location System, or ATLAS. The goal for this project was to build an application to identify projects and propose project work areas for Connecticut DOT's capital projects. And our task at VHB was to upgrade an existing Connecticut DOT system and integrate it with their Esri technology stack. So question, why do we use Experience Builder? So we've done a lot of custom stuff, whether it be the JavaScript API or Web App Builder or mobile or something like that. So when looking at this, they wanted a fully configurable application that could be maintained within their Esri environment. And looking at the options, we determined that the modern approach of Experience Builder was a way to go, and especially with support for 4X, because we have a lot of experience developing custom applications using the Maps SDK, excuse me, and we thought that was a way to go. Now, what we did is we used the developer edition rather than just out of the box edition. And the question is, why do we do that? We wanted to fully configure this from the back end, have an admin interface, and requirements really ask for some things that didn't exist or just weren't quite what we wanted. So we decided to just take Experience Builder and really tweak it through code. We use a lot of third-party libraries for the interface, and we integrated with the GIMU UI using like Kendo, AG Grid.
Did Dan cut out there? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Mike, but Dan also cut out for me.
Okay, he looks frozen on my screen. Let me kind of take over for him. And, oh, there you are. You're back.
Oh, did I cut out
there? Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, I was just talking about the widget. So the metadata widget is the first of the 2 widgets that we created. So Mike will show that now. So what we did is we extended the layer list widget. Now, if you go the Experience Builder developer route, you have all the code in front of you. So what we did is take that code and built upon that. So Mike tapped into the metadata information for each layer and is now presenting it in this widget. So we just made a custom version of layer list and insert it into the application. And this is generic enough where we could plop this into another application and it would pretty much just work because using the Esri standard for metadata. The next item is on the left is really the center of the application. So this is our project management widget. So this whole left panel is a custom widget that we built. If Mike, if you want to just get started, we're going to create a proposed project. So the idea is we have an idea for a project or we want to examine an area. So what we do is enter a nickname, and what we want to do is identify one or more work areas. And then from there, we'll show you the information we can get. So you can see we have a wizard interface, and a lot of this, like I said, is integrating with the GIMU UI, but also integrating Kendo library and a few other libraries to get that effect. So Mike is now drawing a polygon. And what's interesting is we pulled in the sketch widget. We wrapped that in here and it worked, easily. We're used to developing with 4X. So just being able to pull in a widget and get it working in this case makes development pretty easy. So we integrated sketch widget, and some of the logic behind this is coming from the admin interface, such as what are the snappable layers and how we want to configure it. So that can all be controlled by the client, which is Connecticut DOT. So now we have a work area that we just drew, and now let's define a new one using another tool. So this one's more of a custom tool that we worked with Connecticut and building. So this is where you define a start and end route. So Mike's going to first click on a route, define it. And then he's going to click on a start point to define that. And then he's going to click on an endpoint to define that and provide a buffer. And yeah, so we'll include ramps, and we can do a preview to see what comes back from that. So this is a buffer of 75 feet. And I think that looks good. What do you think, Mike?
Looks
Let's
good
add
to
it.
me.
Yeah, let's add it. Okay, so now after this, we have 2 defined work areas. Now we're going to go to the next step of the wizard, which is scan assets. And Mike, I don't know if you want to expand on this, what we're looking at.
Yeah, so there are a number of layers defined in the web map that we're using as our data source here. And the Atlas project management tool identifies those other layers and allows us to scan them to see which ones fall within our project work areas here. So I can go through this list and either select or deselect the asset layers that I want to scan for this particular project work area. So I'm not gonna scan too many of them, just so that our scan goes a little bit faster. Can be kind of time consuming depending on how many layers you scan and how big your work areas are.
You have 1 more minute.
All right.
All right.
So here are our
Wrap it up
results.
quick.
These are the assets that fall within our work areas that we define. So we have the ability to toggle them on and off before we save the project. And you can zoom to each one and see what that work area is touching. So let's go ahead, and there we go. We got to the summary. Anything else you want to discuss, Mike?
Yeah, the only other thing I would add here is in the summary, in addition to seeing the actual physical assets that might be touched as part of this project, we're also getting some data from the informational layers. And unfortunately, there wasn't too much here, but we did find one flood hazard area. So if I click on that, that should highlight it. I guess that's pretty big. It looks like part of our project work area just barely touches this flood zone. But this is helpful for the engineers, because the point of these proposed projects is and using Atlas for these proposed projects is we're harvesting a bunch of information about the other assets and information that lies within those project work areas. And that information is a big part of the process it goes through to get funded and become a real project. So now that we know, for instance, that this project is touching this flood hazard area, we might also be aware that we would have to get a special permit in order to proceed with this project.
More to show, but we'll stop it there.
A little teaser, yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to all 4 of our user presentations. We will, as I mentioned in the follow-up email, we'll be including links and contact details for these folks. Now, Mike and Dan's, that last one you just saw is still under password protection, so we can't share out that link, but they said that they're willing to chat with people if you have any questions. So, all right, with that, we will pass things back over to our friends at Esri. So Tom, if you want to take it away.
Okay, I assume you can see my screen okay?
Yep, looks good.
All right, so I wanted to take you through some just some actual use of Experience Builder. The first thing is, if you've never done it, like, how do you even get there? A couple ways to do that. You should all have on your ArcGIS Online organizational page, or if you're using Enterprise similarly, this little app picker here, and if you pull that down, you can see all the things that you have access to, and likely you should have Experience Builder in this list, which you can see here. I'm just wondering if my headset is telling me the battery's about to die, so uh-oh. Stay with me. Okay. Having a moment of panic here. Still with my screen linked out temporarily there.
We can hear you okay, though. I can
You
hear
can see
you.
me, I assume. Hold on. Can you still hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Which of my headsets? Just switch to a wired headset, so apologies. All right, so this is one way you can do it, is just go right to the app picker. The other thing is, if you're in a map, you can hit this create app button, and you'll also get an option to do Experience Builder. And then I think also, if you are in your content, let me bring this one up in advance, but if you're looking at your content and you choose new item or create app, excuse me, one of the choices here is Experience Builder as well. And that should take you basically to this page, which you can go to directly, which is experience.arcgis.com. And once you're logged in, you can see any experiences that you own. You can also change that to see things that are shared with you, or etc. And you can see I have a few of them. And I'm going to start a new experience. So I'm going to hit this create new button. And as Mark said, there's lots of starting templates here, and you can see a whole big list of them. Some of them are like a single page, meant to be like a single page web app. Others are scrolling. Others are map centric, dashboard focused, etc. You can see all these choices here. But you can pick from any of these and use them as starting points. You can also go and look at templates that people have shared, as Mark said, and you can see there's a whole bunch that people have made public that they've used that you can sort of use as a starting point. I'm going to actually start with this grid one, and this grid template is it's probably less than a year old. But you will see also, if you're a web app builder person, some of the same layouts or templates that you typically see in web app builder: foldable launchpad, jewelry box, blah, blah, blah. So let me go back here. I'm going to pick blank, and I'm going to create a blank web app builder app, and I'm going to put a grid on it. This interface is how we interact. On the left, we have a list of widgets. We have our canvas in the middle, and then we have properties of whatever we're working on the right. So I'm going to start by putting a grid on here, and I'll pick a default sort of layout for that grid, but that's not what I want. So I'm just going to delete this one, and I'm going to split this one. So I have these sort of 3 panels. Oops, that wrong. Slide that over a little bit. Okay, and let's start adding things to the panel. So in this middle panel, I'm going to add a map. One sec here. Okay, unlock that. And we're going to pick a map. So let's do that. Let's pick a map. I'm going to pick, I've used this before, I'm going to use it again. I have this nice map of breweries in Vermont. So I'm going to add that and select it. You can actually add 2 maps or a map and a scene, and you'll get a little toggle button between the two, but I'm not going to do that. In this one, I'm going to zoom in a little on this map. So I'm just going to set the default zoom starting extent just by drawing a map like that. That's fine. Okay. So now we have a map. You can see that we can add tools to this map, like whether we want the zoom button or whether we want to search and measure and all these other things if we want. Okay. Now on the left here, we're going to add a list of these breweries. So I'm gonna hit this add widget thing again. I'm gonna find the list widget. And we'll add that. And we'll come here on the right and we'll say, well, this is, I want a list that has entries that look like this. And we'll get started. And I'll select the data that's going to be in that list, and it's going to be my breweries layer. And I'm going to change a few things about it. There's things I don't like. I don't like the spaces between the cells. That's fine. And we'll come back and, but let's unlock that and let's start messing a little bit with it. So first of all, this list by default has a picture and 2 text fields. We could change that, but I'm going to make this picture a little bit smaller. I'm going to make this text field a little wider. And this one too, and you'll see why in a minute. All right, so what do I want in this little picture? If we go back to the right, we're now looking at the properties of this picture. I could actually grab a picture from an attribute, like a URL to a JPEG, but I'll just grab the symbol from the map. That's easy enough, but you can see I could do a URL, and that URL could come from an attribute, and we'll see that in a minute as well. And then I'm going to work on the text. So this sort of main text, I'm going to say that this text is coming from an attribute of the features, right? And that's brewery name. And then this bottom bit of text, similarly, I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, I want to add some things. I'm going to add its street address, return, and its city, and return, and the description. Okay, so, and you can see that list is filled in now, right? We have the titles, or the names, the addresses. If there's a description, you see that here as well. There are a couple other things I want to do to this list. So let's go back to the list properties, not the pieces of the list, but the list itself. And well, one thing I want to do is the default colors are fine. I could change them, and you can change things to go here to like the fill and the border and stuff like that. But I want, when you select something, I want to have a different fill. So I'm just going to say anything you select is going to be pink. That's fine. I can pick a different color, of course. The other thing I want to do, actually, let me go back to this, to the text, and I'm going to highlight this brewery name, and I could format it, make it bold and all that kind of things, but I'm going to go over to the right here, and I'm going to make that a link, right? A hyperlink. So I'm going to hit the link button. That link is going to go, it's a URL that I'm linking to, but you could see I could link to another page in my experience, or other pieces of my experience if I want here. But this is a URL, and that URL comes from an attribute. I have a website attribute, and I want it to open in a new window. And now you see these are, they've turned blue because they're links, and we'll see how those work. The other thing is that I want, if we sort of, let me save this, just for the heck of it. If I go into live view here, I can see how this works. And this link, I mean, yes, if I click on this, I will be taken in a new window to that page, but clicking on an item here doesn't actually do anything. So just like in a dashboard, these widgets know how to interact. And so let's get out of live view and let's edit this list and put some actions on it. And so we're going to add what's called a trigger. So when you select something on that list, I want the map to zoom to it. And because these are points, I want to specify a specific scale. Otherwise, it typically zooms in too close. So I'll just use 5,000 as a scale. On another action, not only are we going to zoom in, but we're going to pan the map to it. And we'll flash the feature as well. All right. So let's see how those actions have done anything. If we go back to live view and we select one now, good things happen, right? We have that that happening there. So it zooms in, highlights it for us as well. And then on the, what I'm going to do on the right is add a survey. And that survey, we're going to interact with the map. So I'm going to add, you can see all these things here, but I really want to put in a survey. That's a survey I've already created, and it's called the Beer Location Survey. And I'm going to let people insert records into it. And I'm going to also, this is kind of neat, in this survey widget, allow push data into the survey based on interactions with the map. So I'm going to send data to the survey from the map, from the layer of breweries, and I'll add this connection that says, when you do this, we'll grab the brewery name and we'll stuff it into the survey, into the where are you. And so now, if I zoom out a little bit, just to show you this, if I click on one of these, not only do I see it highlighting the list and I see the Madison Brewing Company pop up, but you see it's also populated the survey for me, which is kind of a nice thing. What else here? So, right. So let's. I did mess one thing up here, but we'll see if this helps us or not. You can preview this in different sizes. So this is sort of the large screen, and this is sort of the small screen. And if I had organized this better, you would see 3 tabs across the top, one for the survey, one for the map, and one for the list. But I slightly messed things up when I was moving quickly here. But you can see how, as Mark mentioned, it being a responsive design, it's aware of its size. It tries to do things intelligently. You can override that, and Mark mentioned this. I'm not going to get into this, but there's this idea of the pending list. So for instance, if I didn't want the survey to show up when you're at a small scale, I could go into the small screen mode and move the survey into the pending list. And so only for small screen mode would that not show up, but when you're in the full view, it would show up. So that's another way you can use the pending list. So you can also see that you have, you can view this sort of outline or structure of the application. I have a page that has a grid, and then within the grids, I have different things, and the map and the list and the survey as part of that grid. I can see the data sources I'm using, and I can dig into this a little bit. Like I can look at that breweries layer, and I can, right now there's a little button here that allows me to export the data. I could shut that off if I want. I could create views on the data, as Mark mentioned, if I want to hide fields or only show a subset of data. I can do all those kind of things. I can also set a theme, right? So you can have a bunch of default themes, but you can also customize your own themes. I will mention that if you set up, that's more for story maps, I think. So there's a story maps option to add Google fonts. I don't know if that's in here. So, but you see, you can change the fonts, and you can share this theme and make themes that you can reuse that are useful. And obviously, once you share this, there's also, I should mention, there's a question. This isn't a direct answer to that question, but there's a question about how does Hub and other things interact with this? Well, Hub is a little bit different of an application, and Hub can embed, certainly can embed experiences and other things. But you can also, if you look at this list of widgets that are here, there is this embed widget, and it allows us to embed another web page, another application, some other thing into our application or our experience if we want. And the other thing I'll just mention is, Mark mentioned the idea of like a splash screen or other windows. I can add a window, and that can be like an alert window that, you know, might say something like, the data you see here cannot be used for surveys. Hello and welcome to my app. You know, you can put a picture in there. You can set this so that people have to interact and acknowledge that they accept the terms. Like here, you see I can turn on this accept agreed to terms and conditions. So when I live view this, even though this is not a very good example, I accept the terms and I can dismiss that kind of thing. So lots of options, lots of ways to configure this. there is a really nice gallery of, if you just do Experience Builder, gallery, there's a really nice gallery that you can go and get some ideas from. These are sort of curated by the team, the Experience Builder team. Of course, you also have those templates that I showed you that people have shared that you could start with, but you can also look at these and get a good sense of how people are using it and ideas of how you might use it as well. All right, so I'm going to stop there. It's I think 1:06. I want to open it up to questions that people might have. So I'll leave my screen up and we'll open up. Mark, I don't know if there's anything in the chat that has come up that we want to bring forward, or just open it, open up the, unmute yourself and let's have at it.
I have a question just came up this morning. Someone asked me about Experience Builder. Is it possible to have dynamically add content just within Experience Builder? So for instance, we have a list of content from Portal, right? Can we dynamically add a layer through interaction? So for instance, just like a data viewer, you have a list on the left of data, just say there are IDs to a particular item. You click on that item in the grid. Could you show that item on the map, such as, adding just the layer dynamically on the click event?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can do that. That might be a custom. I mean, there is this new add data widget, but it's not a curated list that, you get to set and structure. And I think it's like in the metadata widget that the VHP guys showed us as part of their app, which
That was me, yeah.
Oh, that was you. All right,
I'm trying
sorry.
to keep it out. We're trying to do a
Damn, it's you,
non-development
man.
version.
Right.
This is, so
yeah, I'm not
I
aware
know-
of a way to have a curated list like that, that you can then, your own sort of table of contents that you would then, click on and it would add it to the map for you. And
so the next step would be have a custom, and we could still have embedded app using embed that would receive that, but that part would have to be custom, right? The custom app could receive the parameters and then show it on the map, but they were trying to do it all 100% Experience Builder, no development, and I didn't think it was possible either.
I don't think it's possible either, Dan.
Okay,
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, there was a question about adding Google Analytics to an Experience Builder app.
That's a good question. I know Story Maps has that.
Yes.
I know
I know.
some other of our pieces have it. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
not
fair
either.
question. Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't think so, but we can take that away and get a definitive answer on that. I'm not aware of anything. I mean, I guess. Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you can embed like some HTML code secretly, magically, but I don't. That's not really a very clean way to do it. So I'm not aware of that. A way to do that easily. Other questions?
Tom, I had a question because you mentioned that this kind of list of breweries over on the left there that you did that quote unquote wrong. I'm wondering how would you fix that? Because I feel like I've done that sometimes where I've like added a window incorrectly. Like what?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Like there is undo, but at this point I probably have to.
But you went too far, right?
I've gone pretty far, right? So I don't know. Like it seems like these are now both in some weird way overlapping, and I don't know what I've done to deserve that.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was something you did in the outline section that you can like move things around in the outline to try to lock them in place.
Yeah, like so this row has a map and a list and a survey, so there's still three separate things, and it somehow seems to me to be the size of this that is the problem, and I really maybe just need see, now I'm just making it worse by doing what I just did. Yeah, so I wish I could answer that. I don't have a good answer for my particular, oh, what have I just done kind of thing, because now I'm, as you can see, making things worse.
You're at least making me feel better about how
yeah,
I tend to make things worse
so
sometimes.
this is the live portion of the, you know, of the demo, and wishing I could get a separate. I'm sure there's a good answer. I just, yeah, I've only just started using the grid, so with respect to grids anyway, I'm not sure how I'd fix this. I'm sure after we end this, I'll fix it in 30 seconds. But under pressure, I'm seemingly not doing a good job. Good question, fair question though.
Alicia had a question about like a live like a GPS location. If you can integrate that, you know, show like, you know, the blue dot, you know, where you are.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a widget for that.
No, me
in
neither.
terms of like your current location. Yeah, I don't know of any any widget that's like the GPS feed or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
empty.
you know, like obviously like you get from Field Maps or Survey 123 or
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be a no-brainer. But I've not done it in an Experience Builder app, so I would have to look
Yeah.
into that one.
No, I don't think there's yet. And I wonder, is there even one on Web App Builder? Just out of curiosity, not that it's a direct comparison kind of thing. I just don't know that even, I don't think Web App Builder has that either. Is that true?
Looking.
Tom,
Yeah.
is it the locate over on the map side on the right, well, on the right side of the screen under tools?
Well, that'll zoom the map to your location. That's this little radar button
okay.
here.
But that's
But
not what
it
they're
won't
looking for.
it won't have a tracking dot.
Gotcha.
And it won't hold your location in the map. It will do a like one-off. I will pan the map, center the map at your location kind
Okay.
of thing. So that's not it, unfortunately. It's sort of half it, but not the full bit. There's a question here about Hub versus Experience Builder, both integrators of content. Certainly Hub is, and Hub, you know, we think about more of a way to engage and engage your constituents on a topic, initiative, whatever you want to call it. And Hub more of an app to do things. So I'm not sorry, an Experience Builder more of an app to do things, like interact with a map and click on the list and do this and do that. So as part of trying to convey information to a constituency, Experience Builder as an app may be maybe a good tool to include in the Hub, either as a link or embedded. But I would say, I mean, they have slightly different focus in my mind. And then of course you can throw story maps in that make it even, you know, add yet another choice, if you will, to that list.
And Tom, kind of along those lines, there was another question too about adding charts and graphs into Experience Builder, so making it more like a dynamic dashboard.
Yeah, there is a chart widget, excuse me, here. So I can, you know, just plop it down just to show you, and then you set up the data. I don't know if I have any numeric data here, but and you can see these different chart types. So we'll take a pie chart, and we'll have to pick a field. right? And then I won't configure this whole thing, but you get the idea, right? Where you can build out charts, you can, you certainly can make it more like a dashboard. I don't know that there's parity between the dashboard widgets and experience builder widgets in either direction. I think you'll find some that have one and some that have the other. A lot of people build dashboards and embed the dashboards in experience builder, and they do it for two reasons. Because they like dashboards, or they built dashboards, but also dashboards on their own haven't been super responsive in terms of their design with respect to smaller screens, but embedding it in an experience helps that cause a little bit. So
And Tom, can you show that really quick? Like you didn't talk about like different windows, or I don't know if that's what they're called. But you can have kind of like different views built into one experience builder, right?
You can, I mean, you can create sections and you can create views. I'm gonna make a new page. Let's just add a page. Just a blank page. And then this isn't my forte here, but you can add sections, and sections can have views, and in those views you can put different things. But I don't know if that's really what you're talking about, Katie, because I mean, some people also use the pending list, so that when you're on a large screen you see one dashboard, and when you're on a small screen you see a different dashboard. And the pending list helps us do that by hiding things in the different layouts, because sometimes a dashboard is just overwhelming regardless on a small screen, and you decide that a iPhone dashboard should only have three things on it, as opposed to the full seven things. So there's lots of ways to do different things. I don't know exactly where we're going here with that, but that's certainly different ways to do it. I don't know,
When
Katie,
you're switching gears, switching gears, there's a few different questions about the edit widget.
Okay.
One is just what are the capabilities of the edit widget, and somebody else asked about access. Can people access and make edits with the edit widget without having an Esri account?
I'm not sure about that. I don't think this is an editable layer.
You could, yeah, it would have to be a public layer if they didn't have an Esri account. I mean, or actually, no, they have to have. You can't. A public account can't edit or change anything in a feature layer.
No. I think that's not true. There was an example I was looking at recently where people could add a record, which used the edit widget to do it inside of Experience Builder.
Oh.
Obviously, there's an edit widget here. I'm not going to do this in a pretty way. I don't think this layer, I'm not sure this layer is editable. Let's see. Yeah,
You
no, I
have
don't
to
have any
set up
editable
the
layers.
layer and give it there's like a certain checkbox in the settings to give it anonymous access or like allow public.
Well, yes,
right?
yes, well, that's true. We did at some point add to the let me just go to the zoning layer. It was really to protect users. We added this little checkbox here called public data collection. It's like an extra step before we'll let you open this up for editing in a public app. And it's only because people, I think, were enabling editing, making things public, and not realizing that meant that the public at large could edit. And so you have to like explicitly say this if you want to make it public and editing. That's true, and that's, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months old, that we added this little extra step. Regardless, I think once you've done that, people can edit inside of Experience Builder without logging in. I thought one of these galleries was, I'm trying to remember what I just saw. recently. It was an experience builder app that had the ability to add like a point on the map or something through Experience Builder. I don't have any editable layers in this map, so I can't really easily and quickly bring up things here. Good. I guess I could find one.
I think we have time for maybe just one more question. I don't know if
Okay. Yep.
Mark or Tom, if you noticed something in the chat, or if anybody felt really passionate about something that didn't get answered, you could raise your hand.
There were a couple of questions about filtering the list,
Oh, yeah.
or something based on the map extent.
Yeah, so that's fine. We can do that real quick. I'm going to go to the map, and I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to add a trigger, and that trigger is on extent change, and it's going to filter the records. The breweries records. So that means that if I go into live view, and I zoom out, right, you see there's only two, and you can see them 1 and 2, and I zoom out more, and you can see how it's dynamically changing that list to match you know, what's in the current extent. So that's as simple as adding an action or a trigger to the map extent, right? So that was I think one of the questions early on.
Great.
Did
Well,
that
thank
answer
you so
that?
much.
That was
Yeah, I think that did.
okay.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for the demo. I know live demos, especially with live questions, is probably one of the most terrifying things we do as presenters. So well done. And there were a few more questions that I know maybe we didn't get to. And I want to just say again to folks that I will be sending a follow-up email with some links to resources. And that's also going to include the email addresses for all of our presenters today. So Mark and Tom, thank you again. I know you've been pretty good about following up with people if they have other questions.
Hey,
that they can
Katie,
reach out.
could I ask, I think because you're the host or whoever's the host,
Sure.
that they grab a copy of the whole chat stream
I
and
will
send
do
it to
that.
us?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, I will absolutely save the chat as well. All right, so with that, I just want to say thank you again so much to the folks from Esri for doing their side of things, and to our user presenters, Rich, Michaela, Mike, and Dan. I think this was really successful. It was like I said, our first time kind of teaming up with these two different types of presentations all in one. So hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have any questions or feedback, that kind of thing, you can send that directly to me. We are always looking for volunteers and help to coordinate future events. So if you would like to assist, please let me know. I would greatly appreciate some assistance with putting together these community events. With that, I want to give a shout out to Rebecca, Becky, and UMass Amherst for supplying us with the Zoom account for this session and for helping to kind of admit and run things behind the scenes. And then also just a reminder for our upcoming events. The next major event we have coming up is our spring conference on May 16th at University of Rhode Island. As I said, we're still looking for presenters. So if you want to share your work, that's a great opportunity to do that, and a great opportunity to see everybody in person for a day. So hopefully we will see you there. I think that's it. We'll stick around for another 5 minutes if you have other questions or need anything. But aside from that, thank you so much for coming.
I'll just comment on, there's a question about non-map centric, whether we see non-map centric apps, and the answer is absolutely. I mean, you've probably seen dashboards, story maps, and maybe to a lesser extent, Experience Builder or Web App Builder, but certainly any of those things can not have a map. I know we love maps, we're mapping people, but all these things can be used without a map or with minimal maps, or the map not being the focus or whatever. So I think that's absolutely true. And I see someone did reach out to the MOOC team. There's a question about MOOCs, and as I said, it's unlikely they do things around a specific product. But the answer they got was that it may be a part of a MOOC. There is a training course, a 2-day instructor-led course on Experience Builder if you're interested.
And maybe we can try to do another workshop or something at the fall conference as well, if there's enough interest and desire for folks to have that too. All right, thanks again, everyone.